Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the Scout Rogue in Baldur's Gate 3. This is part of the Book of Rogues by IncogneatoBurrito, which adds 5 new rogue subclasses into the game. The Scout is all about movement speed and getting around the battlefield with a unique playstyle. My favorite ability is once you get to level 17, if you're using a level increase mod, you can actually get a bonus action attack to do your sneak attack again to a different target. So you're best moving around with this subclass, which I think is a really fun way to play. So starting off with the Rogue, I recommend going all in on your dexterity and using the Hag's Hair to take that up even further. You can honestly just go with a stat spread of a 17 dex, 16 constitution. I went with 12 wisdom. You can put those points into strength if you like strength a bit more, but wisdom saves are a little bit better for us than strength saves would be. So I like to go this route, but it's your choice. You can go with the strength there if you'd like. And if you really want to maximize the damage, a strength potion will be the way to do that. Not a recommendation though, it's entirely up to you, but if you want to get your attack rolls as high as possible, that is the way. But level 2 gives us our rogue bonus actions here, hide, dash, and disengage. These are just nice. Gives us new ways to play around in combat, and dashing as bonus action is really good on this subclass. Now, once we get to level 3, we get to take our subclass with the Scout here. You're skilled in stealth and surviving far from the streets of a city, and you are at home in the wilderness, giving us the Skirmisher. If an enemy ends his turn within 2 meters of you, you can use your reaction to gain additional movement speed equal to half your movement speed until the end of your next turn. Additionally, when you use this reaction, you will not provoke opportunity attacks. This is good for kiting, and you can actually kind of play solo with this type of build because you can kite enemies around. If you really want to do a kind of fun build, I'd recommend a solo Scout Rogue. It could be pretty interesting. Challenging, but an interesting run. Level 4 gives us our first feat. I always like the dexterity improvement here. You could go with the Hag's Hair to take it up to 18, and then we could literally have it at 20 at this point. Alert is another good point because +5 to initiative is good on anybody. And even the Savage Attacker can be pretty effective because you reroll your damage die and you use the higher result. That rerolls our sneak attacks, which is a huge spike to our DPS. I'm going to go with the Alert feat. I like to have my rogues going quick and fast in combat going first. Level 5 gives us a nice defensive ability. We got Uncanny Dodge, which can let us take less damage from an attack. Level 6 gives us skill proficiencies. Deception and Intimidations are great if you're the face of the party. Level 7 gives us the Evasion. This is great because basically we take half less spell damage now from all sources. So if you fail, you still take half damage. If you succeed, no damage. Level 8 gives us our second feat here, and I'd actually recommend at this point to take the Savage Attacker. Now this is going to be a big power spike to our damage because those sneak attack extra die that we get are all rerolled. We get Superior Mobility at level 9, our subclass feature, which increases our movement speed by 3 meters. This is just nice. Again, movement speed is super useful in this game, and you can use even Crusher's Ring to get the even further increased movement speed. The Rogue extra feat at level 10 is great because this lets us take our dexterity increase. If you didn't already, Alert and Savage Attack are fantastic to take. You could even go with a medium armor proficiency if you wanted to. I think that fits very well because there's a lot that go off of our full dexterity modifier. But I'm just gonna go with the dex there. And didn't have the Hag's Hair, but that would put it to 20. At level 11, we get the Reliable Talent, where you can make an ability check with a skill you're not proficient in. The lowest you can roll is a 10. Level 12 gives us our final feat if you're staying at level 12. I will go to level 20, but you can stay here if you don't like the level 20 versions of builds. And honestly, Moderately Armored is not a bad choice at all because the Rogue is kind of like, you don't mind them getting hit sometimes because they can deflect the damage a bit. Another choice, I guess, too, is Defensive Duelist. You can use a finesse weapon and a reaction, although we do have a reaction ability for this subclass. This will add your proficiency bonus to your armor class, which is really nice. This gives you so much more survivability. Alternatively, you can go with a Constitution increase. I'm going to go with Moderately Armored because I didn't take the Hag's Hair. That puts our dexterity to 20, and Medium Armor, the Armor of Agility. It fits perfectly on this build. And a level 13, another subclass feature, Ambush Master. You get a +5 to initiative, so we do not go last ever. We're always going first at this point. We can't be beat at this point. Additionally, when a creature you hit during your first round of combat becomes easier to hit, attack rolls against that creature will have advantage until your next turn. It's just nice. Yeah, Ambush Master kind of giving you like a slight Assassin Rogue kind of feel here. Blind Sight Sense, which allows you to see invisible. That's one of the level 13 to 20 unlocked abilities. You also get the proficiency in wisdom saving throws from that same mod. Really nice. Again, we want wisdom saves as those are like the biggest counter to any type of build. Level 16 does give us another feat, and we can go with the Tough feat if we're going to level 20, because taking Tough means that we get 40 extra health. That's a lot of survivability when we already have a pretty decent survivability. Now, level 17 gives us the special sneak attack that we get. So we get our normal sneak attack, but this is the one that we can use against an extra enemy after we attack. So basically 2 sneak attacks. You just can't use it on the same target. Level 18, you can go with like You could multi-class if you wanted to, because elusive doesn't work. You could add in like the Gloomstalker Ranger for another first turn combat, like just blitz. That's a fun combo. We could also just go and continue with the Rogue. I'm going to do that for the purpose of this video, but don't be afraid to do that. You could get a lot of value out of adding in that extra attack in the first round. Now for our next feat, you could go with a boost to your Constitution here, and that's not a bad choice. Defensive Duelist is another good one I like. This just gives us so much survivability. Rogues are actually kind of sneaky. Lucky Feat is another really good one. Advantage on attack roll, ability checks, or saving throws. 3 points to do that with. I really like the Lucky Feat, and I think it fits very well here. So between Defensive Duelist or the Lucky, it's kind of your choice there. Level 20, it just gives us some more health. And this outfit is the Leathers of the Vagabond. So if you want to get this outfit, that's where it's from. Now, an essential piece of gear is the Ring of Free Action. You cannot be affected by difficult terrain, cannot be paralyzed or restrained. That is honestly the biggest counter to this. If you can't move, you're better off just playing every other type of rogue because that's their whole shtick. So we want this one. I also like to go with a crit fishing kind of build here, so getting an increased critical hit chance, or a free crit basically from this one, which we can proc off of the Crater Flesh Gloves. With Savage Attacker and this adds an additional damage die onto our attacks. We can actually do some pretty crazy stuff here. Now, if you're not going to use medium armor, the best armor in the game for this build will be light armor, but for most of the game, you're going to want to have medium armor because that's just going to give you a bit better survivability. You can get your armor class up to 22. I'm going to show with the ballast armor just to show like the peak offensive. I know I took a feat for medium armor, but for most of the game, you're going to want to wear medium armor. Whenever you get access to it, you can even take the feat a little bit earlier because it's just going to flat out give you a way higher armor class. And there's actually the Yonti in Act 2 that can be great here. I'm using the Deathstalker Mantle, but if you're not Durge, don't worry. The Cloak Protection and Cloaks really aren't a massive change, or a big difference here. I also like to have the Mask of Soul Perception for the bonus to attack rolls and initiative, or initiative doesn't really matter. Haste Helm is also great because this gives us 44.5 meters of movement speed. Great. If you're surrounded, the Scabby Pugilist Circuit can be good. We don't want to get surrounded though. I honestly really like this Mask of Soul Perception, but one thing I do want to mention is that since we took medium armor proficiency, we can actually use the Steel Watcher Helmet. There's the Eversight Ring in Act 2. And this lets us use Magical Darkness, which does counter, like, or I guess the only thing that can really mess with us is spells, and this will actually break line of sight for spells. So don't be afraid to use Darkness. You don't have to. I just want to mention that it is a really powerful ability because we don't have many helmets that are, like, needed for this build. Now, for the weapon that I like to go with, I guess I did mention boots. The boots of Stormy Clamor are fantastic because if you're using the ballast armor, it actually procs this because we apply a condition with the armor, and it procs that. Crazy. But the Nightfield Underbound King, you get advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets, so you're going to be getting advantage often with this build. And we have an increased critical hit chance, again, because we want to get the crazy crits, and we're using Dolar Amaris in the offhand. This adds additional 7 damage, which becomes 14 because of the ballast armor. So yeah, we can one-shot on command with the Killer Sweetheart, and if you have the Illithid free crit, even better. I also have the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to initiative that we do not need, so you can go with the Dead Shot for the increased critical hit chance. That's probably my favorite choice here. But if you got the Vicious Shortbow, that can add actually further critical hit damage, which is insane. Just really depends what you want to go for, more crits or more crit damage. Ambush Master First Strikes. So we do have that condition on the very first turn of combat. The first creature you hit during the first round of combat becomes ambush, which gives us that advantage on attack rolls against them. Now, one thing to mention with this class, I forgot, we should use the Risky Ring or some way to set up our sneak attacks because some of the other rogues do have a way to set up sneak attack. We have to have advantage. There is a way, if you have someone that has high initiative alongside you, you can set yourself up just by having them run beside you, and then you get that free sneak attack off. I'm going to use it against this target here because they have spells that I don't want to get hit with. We rolled the critical hit, so perfect. We're going to do a lot of damage here. Yeah, 108. We're on spot. Nice. We now have advantage for our next attack, which is great because you do get a free sneak attack, the sudden strike, bonus action sneak attack. Kind of crazy ability here. So we got invisibility. We can go after a target that's going to have a bit higher health here. I'd love to attack that one, but I can't. So I'm just going to go on the sneak attack here, and boom, 118 damage. Kind of insane. That didn't eat our bonus action for whatever reason. No, it ate our bonus action. Never mind. But we have one attack left. The unfortunate part is the rogue doesn't have an extra attack. There is a mod that gives them the extra attack at level 8, and I really do like that because it just makes them feel a lot better. Arrow of many targets normally, but I think at this point we want to have our defensive way set up. So Arrow of Darkness, because we do have that. We rolled a critical miss, and we can turn that into a critical hit. I shouldn't have used that for the free crit, but the extra force damage was nice. And Dolor Amaris actually adds their damage on top of the force damage, which is kind of crazy. So not only do we get that extra 7 damage and it's double to 14, but it's also added once more on top of the force damage. Now, I just want to clear things up before someone gets upset, because every time we use darkness, someone gets upset. The rogue doesn't get extra attack, so I can't actually clear the map. You see all the enemies that are in the initiative order. If I didn't do this, this would have been very bad, because every time I get hit with the command spells, and I don't always have the greatest chance of succeeding against those. So, because I only play the one character that I'm showing off the build for, so that's the reason that I use darkness there. You don't have to use it, but otherwise my character would have died immediately. So yeah, that can't happen. But what's nice is if they do start to attack your teammates, what you can do is then sneak attack and make your way towards them. We get the advantage from the darkness there, and the advantage from the Shadow Blade ability, which is kind of crazy. But then we can go after these targets here, and I'm actually going to attack this. This one has more health, so then I can use my free sneak attack against this target here, and boom. I probably should use the bonus action version of it, but you can actually keep a bonus action attack, which is kind of I think a cheeky way of doing it, because you do get the 2 sneak attacks. I'm not sure if this is the way it's meant to be, but I have haste. That's the reason that I was able to do the 2 action-based ones, and then still keep the bonus action attack there. So, yeah, and that gave us the 3rd attack knockout. Perfect. I have called a weak on, though. That was the only way that we got that KO, but they had 2 health left otherwise. But, yeah, at the end of your turn, run back to your safety pocket, because otherwise you're going to be the target of a lot of spells and crowd control that you're not going to get hit when you're in that darkness. And one of the best things about darkness is you have sometimes the hardest time getting advantage without having advantage against yourself, like the risky ring. So from the edge of darkness, this actually lets, what's funny enough is they'll actually pile their way towards the edge of darkness too, so you don't even have to do anything. And then since we're in darkness, there's a 99% hit chance. The only way they could dodge is a critical miss with disadvantage. Like they'd have to roll 2 1s for us to miss, which is very unlikely for them to roll 2 1s. So yeah, then we can follow up with another sneak attack. That's the beauty of this, is we got pretty much endless options for combat, because we can prioritize one target and then prioritize another. We have a lot of movement speed. Just so happens that the only targets that I can hit right now are right here, so I'm just going to do another sneak attack here. Unfortunately, they're hiding back there, but what I can do is try to force a critical hit off of, because I'm attacking with advantage here, and we can get an easier crit chance. That applied reverberation, but an arrow of many targets is great, because if I crit on the first target, they all become crits, and since we have a high crit chance, that's going to add a bunch of extra damage. And you can use Uncanny Dodge if something like Volley comes and attacks. And I guess I forgot that the Darkness arrow is going, or the Arrow of Darkness is going away that turn. But we can eat those attacks because, again, we have tough. We got, if we do need to, we can use our reaction a little bit later on. I don't like to prematurely pop Uncanny Dodge, especially if you have something like the Illithid ability Psionic Backlash, or another reason to use your bonus action or your reaction there. Like slow, unfortunately, I can't stop that, but I can use Psionic Backlash, and it actually stopped it. So sometimes things like that can help, because it'll take the damage from the spell that was about to be cast. Now, unfortunately, I still can't attack these targets back here, but what we could do is we can have someone else set up an Arrow of Darkness. This is just me being cheeky to show off the ability, because that ran out, and then that allows us to do our sneak attack, which we couldn't do previously. So, yeah, Darkness is just a big asset, because otherwise, I know this wasn't running around a lot, but that's one of the main things this class is good at. But getting 2 sneak attacks is really nice. But use the movement speed. You don't proc opportunity attacks, so you can use that to get around a battlefield. And then you also do have things like your second sneak attack to play a little bit more strategically with. So that is the Book of Rogues 5e Rogue subclass mod by IncogneatoBurrito. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed. Go download this mod. It is fantastic, and I hope you guys all have a great day.